Hello everyone, I'm Jack. I'm the QMUL Vice President Welfare for this year.
Hi, I'm Tiana. I'm the Vice President Communities this year, and we are joined by Alastair from the Tower Hamlets branch of the London Renters Union.
Hi, nice to meet you both.
Cool. We have a few questions for you for students to find out a bit more about the London Renters Union and what you do and what support they can have. So I guess we'll go straight into a few questions.
Yes.
And Jack and I will take turns asking the questions.
Right.
So the first question is, what is the London Renters Union trying to do and how did it start?
So the London Renters Union is a union of renters, mostly private renters, but also renters in social housing across London, and we've got different groups and branches, well-established branches in Newham and in Lewisham and Hackney, and relatively new but growing groups in Tower Hamlets, Camden and elsewhere. And yeah, I'm from the Tower Hamlets group, and yeah, we're trying to get more people involved, offer a space where people can come and share their issues that they're experiencing with housing, and really form a community where people can support each other and take action. And it is very much a community, and you know, we believe that the way that we can actually have influence and power to change things in the housing system is by building a mass organisation of thousands of renters, and we know that, you know, private renting is on the rise massively. It's you know, it's grown hugely over the last 10 years, almost doubling in terms of the proportion of households, and so there are millions of us out there, especially in big cities like London, and we believe that, you know, we have power when we come together. But it's also about, you know, getting to know what the actual issues people are facing in their day-to-day, and offering that space, not presuming that we know, but also just, you know, offering a space to meet and talk about those problems and take them on an individual level, but also try and collectivize them, see the bigger picture, and know that, you know, if we fight on one particular issue, you know, if we win, you know, to stop an eviction here, or to win a rent rebate against a big landlord in the borough, then that can have a bigger echoing impact more widely. And yeah, I mean, the three things that the LRU kind of, well, three of the key things that it demands are for genuinely affordable housing, for housing that's secure and that's safe and decent in terms of conditions. And what do we mean by that? I mean, by affordable, we're talking about rent controls. We don't believe rents should just be left to the free market. And of course, in this country, you know, not so long ago, there were rent controls up until 1989, when they were fully abolished, but they've been variously diluted before then. And, you know, we believe that we're in a time now when the system is really out of control and rents are way too unaffordable. You know, people are used to paying over a third of their income, or even up to a half in rent, whereas usually, you know, back in the 60s, it might have been more habitual to pay a quarter or less of your income on rent. And we believe that, you know, the way things are now is not right, and especially in an emergency time like this with the pandemic, you know, as in the past when rent controls were brought in after the First World War and before the Second World War, we need this system to be controlled. So that's what we're talking about with affordable housing. And in terms of security, an immediate demand is to end Section 21 no-fault evictions, which of course the government promised over a year ago but hasn't delivered. So we really need to fix this. And more long term, we actually believe that people should be given real security of tenure. They should have the possibility of lifetime tenancies, really. Why should private renting be seen as this insecure, precarious situation? And it's you know, only by owning your own home that you get that security. We believe everyone should have the right to that security. And by safe and decent homes, well, we mean, of course, homes free from damp, homes, you know, that where repairs are done and actually enforced, and landlords can't get away with, you know, renting your house where the radiators don't work, where the electrics haven't been checked for 10 years, and so on. And we've seen the disastrous consequences of not having proper enforcement on those things with Grenfell Tower. So there should be proper mechanisms of redress and recourse for tenants, you know, who are the ones who really know what's going on in their buildings. They know the conditions, so they should have a democratic forum in which to deal with those problems. As well, we also think there should be no discrimination in housing. We have a slogan: no borders in housing. Landlords shouldn't have the right to check people's immigration status or to discriminate against people who are claiming benefits. You know, decent housing should be for everyone without any qualification in that way. But yeah, as I said, I mean, the way that we believe that we can get these things, and we're trying to get these things, is by building a mass community of renters that can come together and challenge the people who have the power to make decisions.
Brilliant, thank you. That all sounds really, really great, and I think we can all identify with parts of what you were saying there. You've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but just wanted to ask a little bit more about what kinds of things that the LRU have done over the pandemic to fight for its members.
Yeah, it's been a really intense time, and you know, I'm sure for many students as well. And right at the beginning of the pandemic, we launched a campaign that we called "Can't Pay, Won't Pay." You know, we knew people were losing income because of the pandemic, because of job losses, and so on. And we believed that in an emergency time, especially, people should prioritise spending on the essentials, on food, on medicines, and not on rent. And so we launched this campaign where people could sign up to pledge to withhold rent so that they could afford those essentials, or to act in solidarity with others who were doing that. And over 4,000 people signed up for that, which was, we thought, a really good start, but not enough to launch a kind of London-wide rent strike, which I guess is what would be a form of action that could really hit home. But it was nonetheless a promising sign, and over the past year, LRU's membership it grew massively, from just under 2,000 members to over 4,000. So it's really given us a boost in that way, and we feel like we're actually becoming the kind of wide-reaching organisation that we want to be. But more specifically, we've done various things. So, you know, there's been a series of eviction bans imposed and extended, and obviously partly that's just the government recognising that the situation is unsustainable. But you know, LRU was very much involved in pressing for that. We launched a petition calling for suspension of rent debt, and which attracted over 100,000 signatures. We got Sadiq Khan to back some of our demands. We also did an open letter with the BMA and other medical professionals, highlighting the links between housing and health, especially at this time when, you know, the message was stay at home, and yet people were being threatened with being kicked out of their homes. And yeah, we fought various campaigns at different blocks and different specific groups of renters. I'll just highlight one of them, which is recently renters at Dorchester Court in Lambeth won a campaign after several months to get repairs done that hadn't been done for ages. You know, cracked windows, terrible conditions, and they won this after protests from their multi-millionaire landlord, who has finally come to negotiations with them and agreed to do something about these poor conditions. So those are some of the kinds of things that we've been doing.
Yeah, that sounds really great. And I mean, the pandemic has definitely shaken a lot of things up over the last year. So it's great to see people coming together, because now more than ever, like these kinds of unions are needed for support. That was really important. So the next question is kind of, what are you planning to do in the future to fight for your members? Do you have any upcoming campaigns or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the eviction ban is obviously still in place for a little bit longer, but not much. It's due to expire very soon in March. We need that extended, and also at the last time it was extended, the government introduced a loophole so that people who had built up 6 months rent arrears or more, including during the pandemic, and this was the loophole, could actually be evicted. Their landlords could file for eviction through the courts, and that loophole needs to be closed, and we need the eviction ban extended. So we're campaigning for that. We're pressing for that. But we know to actually have any chance of getting what we want, we need to build up our base. We need to recruit more members, and yeah, we really do appeal to all students to come along to one of our meetings, think about getting involved. I mean, you don't have to sign up to be a paying member straight away, but do know that we exist as an open forum that anyone can join. In terms of more specific things in town hamlets, we have an ongoing dispute with the biggest listed HMO landlord in the borough, a man called Rakesh Patel, who's we've had tenants who came to us, and so we've started to try and act in solidarity with them, describing how he had taken money from their deposits illegally, how he had failed to make repairs, how he'd lied about certain conditions, how he'd used some of the people who work for him to go around to people's houses without invitation, actually breaking lockdown conditions, so we have an ongoing dispute with that landlord, and we're looking at ways to build on that, really, because we know there's many more tenants out there who've had issues with him. We're also just thinking really about what it means to unionize during this time of lockdown and pandemic. When we can't do big street protests or even street stalls or door knocking and the kinds of things that we do to try and reach out in the community. So we're thinking about that, and we're trying to basically put our members in touch at a very local level, street by street level, and see how they can reach out to people in their very immediate neighborhood, to see what kind of issues people are experiencing, and offer the union as a space to come together.
Brilliant, thank you. And just to kind of connect this back to students, I know you've touched on this already as well, but just thinking more specifically about students, why should students specifically kind of get involved with the LRU? Like what kind of benefits would that have for students, and how does that connect with them?
Well, I would say for a start, it's a two-way thing. I mean, we have a lot to learn from students, and we've seen the rent strikes across the country at different universities, including at QMU, which are really inspiring, and have a potential to kind of light a spark, I think, that can spread elsewhere. So it's about making those connections and offering solidarity where we can. I guess the other thing is that students are, they're going to be non-students quite soon, and they may not be in halls for forever, or they won't be. And if you're moving into private rented accommodation, not in halls but with another private landlord, I would say students, it's useful and valuable to be part of something like LRU. The student union is a great resource and great support for all kinds of issues, but might struggle to deal with the kinds of issues you'd face with a private landlord that's not providing halls officially. And of course, there are wider kind of systemic connections. We know that student housing has become big business. That's part of the privatized education model that we're heading towards increasingly. It's increasingly an area for speculation for property companies, and that forces up rents across the city. So we have to address this, and we can only do that together by, can't just be students fighting on their own or just private renters on their own. We have to come together, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you mentioned the different rent strikes happening across the country. And here at Queen Mary, students are taking part in the QMUL rent strike. So just want to know, how do you think the QMUL rent strike relates to what you do?
I think it's, it's a source of inspiration. Seeing people actually, use this tactic of the rent strike, which we haven't seen used for many years, and it's proved incredibly effective. Students at different universities winning like at Manchester millions of pounds worth of compensation, and at QMU I understand that partial demands have already been conceded on by the university, which is great news, and I know there's still a way to go in terms of some of those other issues. It's an inspiration at that level. I think it also relates because the university is a big hub within the community, within the borough. It's a big workplace, somewhere where thousands of people have connections through employment or through study. And we're thinking about schools, for instance, right now. We've seen the National Education Union be actually a really inspiring leader within the pandemic about the kinds of policies that we need to safeguard public health. And we believe institutions and trade unions can play a role in this way. And so I think making those links between the student union, the lecturers union, and what we're trying to build, a renters union within the borough, can create those grassroots democratic bodies that have a real a kind of influential voice, initially at the local level, but we hope also nationally.
Definitely, yeah. I think Tiana mentioned before, I think now more than ever people need to come together and support each other, and so I think it's really great to see that is the case. I guess to end on this note, I just wanted to ask how students can get involved with the LRU. Like, what kind of routes are there available? What kind of things can students do? What can they get involved with? How can they engage with you guys?
I'd say come along to our next meeting. Check us out on Twitter, Tower Hamlets LRU. I can provide our email address. Just drop us a message. Come along to the meeting, and if you've got renting issues you want to discuss, you can discuss it there. We have a member solidarity team. We have people who have experience of, they're not legal experts, but they have experience of the law and they have experience of other struggles. Our collective knowledge is valuable in that way, and it's also, it's valuable for us to learn from you in terms of, the rent strike, in terms of other campaigns that you're involved in, just ideas that you might have for how we can take things forwards, because it's an organisation that's really owned by its members, so it's really open to what you might want to do in terms of campaigning action.
Brilliant, fantastic. Thank you so much for meeting with us this morning, and for telling us all about the LRU and what you guys do. And we'll share your information with students, so hopefully you'll get students in touch with you.
Great, thanks so much, Jack. Thank you.